Keisha Williams felt her stomach drop as the massive transport shuttle touched down on Kepler Station. Through the small window, she could see the sprawling military complex that would be her home for the next 4 years. The Galactic Combat Academy was famous across 100 worlds, and somehow she had made it here. She grabbed her old duffel bag, the same one she had used back on Titan's Edge when the family went on camping trips. Everything she owned fit inside it. Her clothes, a few books, and a small photo of her little sister Nia making funny faces at the camera. That photo was the most important thing she carried. Walking down the shuttle ramp, Keisha realized just how small she was compared to everyone else. The other new students looked like they could snap her in half without even trying. There were tall, blue-skinned aliens with extra arms, creatures covered in thick armor-like skin, and beings that moved so fast they seemed to blur at the edges. Near the landing pad, she spotted another human talking to a group of massive warriors. The guy looked older than her, maybe 19 or 20. His uniform was crisp and new, and everything about him screamed money and proper training. When he noticed her looking, he gave her a quick up-and-down glance that clearly said she did not belong here. Then he turned away like she was not worth his time. Keisha had seen that look before. Back home, when fancy visitors came to inspect the mining operations, they looked at the colony kids the same way, like they were dirty and stupid and would never amount to anything special. A voice boomed across the landing area, making everyone jump to attention. The speaker was enormous, even by alien standards. His skin looked like dark metal, and when he spoke, his mouth revealed rows of sharp teeth. This had to be Master Voktan, the legendary instructor she had heard about during her acceptance interview. New recruits, form ranks immediately. Today we discover what you are truly made of. The group shuffled into rough lines. Keisha found herself standing between a creature that looked like a walking tree and something that might have been made of living rock. She felt like a mouse surrounded by elephants. Master Voktan paced in front of them, his heavy footsteps echoing off the metal deck. You come here thinking you know how to fight. You're trained in your home worlds, learned your species' ancient ways, mastered traditional weapons. Today, you will forget all of that. Today, you will learn what real combat looks like. He stopped and pointed at the training facility. Inside that building, there are no rules except one. Stay alive. Your opponent will not hold back, and neither should you. The weak will be sent home before dinner. Keisha's heart started pounding. She had never been in a real fight before. Growing up on Titan's Edge meant dealing with dangerous weather and wild animals, but she had never fought another person who actually wanted to hurt her. The training hall was huge, with padded floors and walls lined with weapons from dozens of different worlds. Students were already pairing off, sizing each other up like predators choosing prey. Keisha hoped she might get matched with someone closer to her size, but luck was not on her side. You small human, Master Voktan called out. Face Grixtar. Grixtar stepped forward, and Keisha had to crane her neck just to see his face. He belonged to the Crothery species, famous throughout the galaxy for being unbeatable warriors. His people started combat training before they could walk, for muscular arms hung at his sides, each one probably stronger than her entire body. The other students formed a circle around them. Some looked excited to see what would happen. Others just looked sorry for her. The human guy from earlier was smirking like he was about to watch something funny. Grixtar took a fighting stance that looked like it came from some ancient martial art. His movements were smooth and controlled, like a deadly dance he had practiced 10,000 times. Each of his 4 arms moved independently, creating a complex pattern that would be impossible for most beings to counter. Master Voktan raised his hand. Begin. Grixtar moved forward with confidence. His first strike came fast, aimed right at her head, but something strange happened. Instead of trying to block it or run away, Keisha simply was not there anymore. She had dropped low and spun to the side, like she was playing a game of dodgeball back in school. His second attack followed immediately, a sweeping motion designed to catch her wherever she went. Again, she was not where he expected. This time she had rolled forward, somehow ending up right beside him instead of where any trained fighter would be. The big alien tried to grab her with his third and fourth arms, but Keisha was already moving. She bounced off the padded wall, used his own arm as a stepping stone, and before anyone could blink, she was behind him. What happened next looked impossible. Grixtar, this massive warrior who had probably never lost a fight in his life, suddenly found himself flat on his back, staring up at the ceiling. He had not been punched or kicked or thrown in any recognizable way. It was like he had simply forgotten how to stand up. The entire hall went dead silent. Even Master Vaktan looked confused. In 200 years of running this academy, he had never seen anything like what just happened. Keisha walked over and offered Grixtar her hand, helping him to his feet like they had just finished playing a friendly game. "Good match," she said with a genuine smile. "You are really strong." Master Vaktan approached, his metal-like face unreadable. "Cadet Williams. That was unlike any fighting style I have encountered in 4 decades of combat. Who trained you in these techniques?" Keisha looked around at all the staring faces. She could tell they expected some impressive answer about secret military training or ancient family traditions. Instead, she just shrugged and said the truth. "My little sister Nia taught me everything I know. She is 6 years old." You could have heard a pin drop in that massive training hall. Master Vaktan could not sleep. For 3 straight nights, he had been sitting in his office, staring at the same files over and over again. Keisha Williams, age 17, from a place called Titan's Edge. On paper, she looked like the least qualified student ever accepted to the academy. He pulled up her home world information again. Titan's Edge was classified as a frontier mining colony, population barely 3,000. The planet was listed as barely habitable, with extreme weather patterns and dangerous wildlife. Most species would not even try to live there. But humans, apparently, called it home. What bothered him most was what was not in her file. No combat schools. No military training. No warrior traditions passed down through generations. The girl who had just defeated his best students in single combat had apparently learned to fight from a 6-year-old child. Vaktan activated his communication system and sent a priority request to Titan's Edge Colony Administration. Within hours, he had access to security footage from the settlement. If this Neil Williams had somehow taught her sister to fight, he needed to understand how. The first files showed what looked like perfectly normal human children. 2 girls playing in what appeared to be a junkyard filled with old mining equipment and broken spacecraft parts. Keisha, maybe 15 in the footage, chasing a much smaller girl with pigtails around piles of scrap metal. They were laughing and shouting, clearly having fun, but as Vaktan watched more carefully, he began to notice things that made him uncomfortable. The way the younger girl moved was not random. She would dart between obstacles, always staying just out of reach, but her path to the maze of junk was perfectly calculated. She never got trapped in dead ends. She always had at least 2 escape routes. And when her older sister got close, she would vanish into spaces that seemed too small for any living being. Meanwhile, the older girl, Keisha, was learning to adapt. At first, she would charge straight ahead, trying to use her size advantage. But as the games continued, she started thinking differently. She began to predict where her little sister would go, setting up ambushes, using the environment to her advantage. Vaktan realized he was watching advanced tactical training disguised as children playing. He pulled up more files, going back years. The games evolved as the girl got older. What started as simple chase became complex hunts involving multiple levels of the scrapyard. Sometimes Nia would hide for hours while Keisha searched. Other times, they would switch roles, with the younger girl becoming the hunter. In one particularly disturbing video, he watched 6-year-old Nia crawl through a tunnel barely wide enough for her body, emerge behind her sister, and tap her on the shoulder before disappearing again. The tunnel system she had used would have challenged his best infiltration specialists. Down in the academy training halls, Keisha was becoming a legend. Every day brought new victories that should have been impossible. Yesterday, she had faced 3 opponents at once, all from species known for their fighting abilities. She had won without landing a single punch. Jerome Washington, the other human student, was getting frustrated. After his 4th defeat, he cornered some of the other students. "This is crazy," he said, still breathing hard from their match. "She does not fight like anyone I have ever seen. It is like she is playing some kind of game. "She moves wrong," agreed one of the Crothery students. "No form, no discipline. But somehow, she always ends up where we do not expect. Yesterday, when we sparred, I swear she was humming some children's song while she dodged my attacks," added a Theron warrior. Like this was all just fun for her. When these comments reached Vaktan, one word stuck in his mind: game. He returned to the security footage with new eyes. This time, he focused on something he had dismissed before: the sound the children made while playing. They were not just laughing and shouting randomly. They were communicating in code, using songs and rhymes to share information about positions, plans, and tactics. But it was when he accessed footage labeled Emergency Evacuation Drill that everything clicked into place. A severe storm had hit the colony, and all residents needed to reach the underground shelters quickly. As he watched the chaos of people running through dangerous weather, he saw something that made his blood freeze. The Williams sisters moved through that storm like ghosts. While adults stumbled and struggled against the wind, the two girls floated around obstacles like water. They helped fallen colonists, guided confused families to safety, and somehow arrived at the shelter first despite starting from the farthest point. They had not been running for safety. They had been playing the most deadly version of tag imaginable, where the storm itself was trying to catch them. Vaktan sat back in his chair, finally understanding. Humans did not train warriors through formal instruction and rigid discipline like every other species in the galaxy. They created warriors through play on worlds that killed anyone who was not strong enough, fast enough, or smart enough to survive. Every game these children played was actually advanced combat training. Every race through the scrapyard was pursuit and evasion practice. Every hiding game was stealth training. Every moment of their childhood was preparation for battles they did not even know they were training for. He looked at his own species' training methods, refined over thousands of years. Crothery warriors spent decades learning forms, memorizing techniques, building strength through repetition. It produced excellent soldiers, but soldiers who thought in predictable ways. Humans, apparently, produced something entirely different. They created fighters who saw combat as play, who moved with joy instead of grimness, who could adapt to anything because they had learned that survival was just another game to be won. The most terrifying part was that they did not even realize how dangerous they were. In all the footage, in every impossible feat of tactical thinking or physical ability, the Williams sisters just looked like they were having fun. Vaktan made a decision. He sent another message to Titan's Edge, this time requesting detailed information about their other children. If two sisters could produce combat abilities that baffled his academy, he needed to know what the rest of the human colony was capable of. The response came back within hours. 23 human children currently living on Titan's Edge, ages 4 to 16. All of them playing the same games. All of them learning the same lessons without knowing it. For the first time in his long military career, Master Vaktan felt genuinely afraid. Not of war, not of enemies, but the possibility that humans were accidentally creating the most dangerous warriors the galaxy had ever seen, and they were doing it by letting their children play. The announcement came over the academy speakers at breakfast time. Family Visitation Day was scheduled for the following week. Most students seemed excited, talking about parents and siblings they had not seen in months. Keisha felt a mix of excitement and worry. Her parents could not afford the trip, but somehow they had managed to send someone even better. When the transport shuttle landed, Keisha was waiting at the docking bay with butterflies in her stomach. The doors opened, and out bounced a small figure that made her heart skip with joy. Keisha. The voice was high and excited, belonging to a 6-year-old girl with dark pigtails bouncing as she ran. Nia Williams wore a bright yellow sundress and clutched a worn stuffed rabbit under one arm. To anyone watching, she looked like the most normal child in the universe. But Master Vaktan was watching very carefully, and what he saw made him question everything he thought he knew about human children. As Nia ran across the busy docking bay toward her sister, something incredible happened. The area was crowded with aliens, luggage, and various pieces of equipment scattered around. Any normal child would have stumbled, gotten lost in crowd, or needed help navigating the chaos. Nia moved through it all like she had been doing her entire life. A massive luggage cart rolled directly into her path, pushed by a Theron dock worker who had not seen the small human. Without even slowing down, Nia dropped into a slide that took her right under the cart, popping back up on the other side, still running. A group of Crothry warriors were standing in formation, blocking what seemed like the only direct path to Keisha. Nia spotted a gap between two of them that looked barely wide enough for a cat to squeeze through. She twisted her body and slipped between them so smoothly that they did not even realize she had been there, when a maintenance robot suddenly rolled out from behind a support pillar, directly into her running path. Nia did something that made every trained warrior in the area stop and stare. She planted one hand on top of the robot and vaulted over it in a perfect flip, landing on her feet without missing a step. The move was so fluid and natural that it looked like she had been practicing her whole life. The entire docking bay had gone quiet. Hardened soldiers from dozens of worlds watched this tiny human child move with a grace and awareness that most of them had spent decades trying to achieve. Nia finally reached her sister and jumped into her arms, completely unaware that she had just demonstrated combat skills that would have impressed the Academy's top instructors. Later that day, the students were holding demonstration matches so their families could see what they had learned. Nia sat in the spectator stands, swinging her legs and eating some kind of colorful candy that her sister had bought her from the station commissary. The matches were intense. These students represented the best young warriors from across the galaxy, and they were eager to show off their skills. But as the fights progressed, something strange started happening. "Ooh, he is going to fall down," Nia announced loudly during one match, pointing at a Crothry student who was advancing on Jerome, the other human cadet. Her voice carried across the training hall, and several heads turned to look at her. Sure enough, 10 seconds later, the Crothry warrior stepped exactly where Jerome had been hoping he would, right into a trap that sent him tumbling to the padded floor. During the next match, a Vexani fighter was trying to break through the defense of a Theron opponent. The Vexani kept launching attack after attack at the same spot, growing more frustrated as each one was blocked. "Why does not she just go around?" Nia asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. "There's a big open space right over there." The fighters paused mid-combat. Everyone looked where the child was pointing. There was indeed a clear flanking route that would have ended the match immediately. The Vexani fighter looked embarrassed. She was a trained assassin from a species famous for tactical thinking, and a 6-year-old human had spotted an obvious opportunity that she had completely missed. Master Voktan had been watching this with growing amazement. This child was reading complex combat situations better than students who had trained for years. He made a decision that would change everything. During a break between matches, he approached the small girl. Nia was busy trying to teach her stuffed rabbit how to do a somersault when the massive alien instructor knelt down beside her. "Nia," he said in his gentlest voice, which still sounded like rocks grinding together, "would you be willing to show us one of the games you play with your sister?" Nia looked up at him with bright, curious eyes. "Really? You want to play too?" "Very much so." "Okay." She jumped up and grabbed Keisha's hand. "Let's play Monster in the Dark. It is super fun." What happened next will be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. Nia explained the rules in the simple way that children do. Keisha is the monster, and she has to catch me. But I get to turn off the lights, and she has to find me without making any noise. If she makes noise, I get to move to a new hiding spot. The instructors dimmed the lights in the training hall until it was nearly pitch black. Then they watched in stunned silence as the two sisters began what looked like an innocent children's game, but was actually the most advanced demonstration of stealth, counter-surveillance, and tactical movement they had ever witnessed. Nia seemed to disappear completely. Not just hide, but actually vanish like she had never existed. Meanwhile, Keisha moved through the darkness with impossible quiet, using techniques that graduate-level students struggled to master. They communicated through tiny sounds that most species could not even detect. A barely audible tap meant move left. A soft whistle indicated stay low. They had developed an entire language of signals that allowed perfect coordination in complete darkness. When Keisha got close, Nia would somehow sense her approach and fade away like smoke. When Nia wanted to relocate, she moved through spaces that seemed physically impossible to navigate without sound. The demonstration lasted 15 minutes. During that time, The two sisters executed ambush tactics, escape routes, and counter-surveillance techniques that most galactic military units would need months of training to attempt. When the lights came back up, both girls were laughing and out of breath, like they had just finished the most fun game in the world. That was awesome. Nia grinned up at Master Voktan, whose massive form was trembling slightly. Want to play again? I know a lot of other games, too. For the first time in his 40-year military career, the legendary Instructor was genuinely terrified of a 6-year-old child who thought warfare was playtime. It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon. Keisha and Nia were sitting in the academy mess hall, sharing a plate of something that was supposed to taste like chocolate cake, but definitely did not. Nia was telling her sister about all the new friends she had made back home, chattering away about games and adventures, while Keisha listened with a smile. Then the lights went red. Emergency sirens started blaring so loud that conversation became impossible. The metallic voice of the station computer echoed through every speaker. Code black. Hostile forces have breached outer defenses. All personnel to emergency stations immediately. Around them, the mess hall erupted into controlled chaos. Trained cadets from dozens of species jumped up from their meals and rushed toward their assigned positions. Instructors barked orders through communication devices while checking weapons and equipment. Master Voktan burst through the main doors, his massive form moving faster than should have been possible. All students to secure areas now. This is not a drill. The first explosion hit somewhere deep in the station. The floor shook so hard that dishes fell off tables, and several smaller students were knocked off their feet. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Most people would have been terrified. Most 6-year-old children would have been crying for their parents. But Nia Williams looked around at the chaos with bright, excited eyes and clapped her hands together. "Ooh, this is just like the storm game," she said, her voice somehow carrying over the noise. "Remember, Keisha, when the big storm hit home and we had to get everyone to the safe caves?" Before Keisha could respond, Nia had already dropped to the floor and started moving. But she was not running around in panic like everyone else. She was moving with purpose, like she had trained for this exact situation her entire life. Keisha watched her little sister for exactly 2 seconds before her own instincts kicked in. Without thinking about it, she dropped into the same low crouch and began following Nia through the crowd. What Master Voktan saw next would haunt his dreams for years to come. The Williams sisters moved through that panicking crowd like they were swimming through calm water, while huge alien warriors stumbled into each other and trained soldiers got confused by the emergency lighting. 2 human girls flowed around every obstacle without effort. Nia slipped between the legs of running cadets, under overturned tables, and through gaps that seemed too small for anyone to fit through. Keisha followed a different path, but somehow stayed perfectly coordinated with her sister, like they were connected by invisible strings. A second explosion rocked the station, this one much closer. Through the mess hall windows, Keisha could see small attack ships swarming around the station like angry insects. Bright flashes of weapons fire lit up the darkness of space. "Keisha," Nia whispered, her voice somehow reaching her sister despite all the noise around them. "Bad guys coming through door number 2. Sure enough, the emergency exit on the far side of the mess hall burst open. 6 figures in dark combat armor poured through, carrying weapons that looked like they could cut through solid steel. These were not regular pirates or thieves. These were professionals, moving in perfect formation like they had done this many times before. The lead attacker raised his weapon toward a group of trapped students. His finger was starting to squeeze the trigger when something impossible happened. Nia appeared behind him like a ghost. One moment she was across the room. The next she was tapping him on the shoulder like she wanted to ask him a question. When he spun around in surprise, she was already gone. The confusion lasted just long enough for Keisha to make her move. She had somehow climbed onto the ceiling supports without anyone noticing and dropped down behind the second attacker. Her landing knocked his weapon out of his hands, and before he could react, she had vanished back into the shadows. What followed was the strangest battle Master Voktan had ever witnessed. It was not really a battle at all. It was more like watching 2 children play an elaborate game of tag with 6 very confused adults. The attackers could not figure out where the sisters were, or where they would appear next. Every time they thought they had spotted one of the girls, she would be somewhere completely different. Every time they tried to coordinate their response, something would go wrong. Weapons would disappear from their hands. Their communication equipment would mysteriously stop working. Their formation would fall apart as they tripped over obstacles that definitely had not been there a moment before. "You take the tall one. I will get the two by the window," Keisha whispered to her sister, her voice so quiet that even Vaktan's enhanced hearing almost missed it. "Got it. Low or high approach?" Nia whispered back, "Your choice. I will follow your lead." They moved like dancers who had practiced the same routine 1,000 times. Nia would create a distraction on one side of the room, while Keisha struck from the other. When the attackers turned to face the new threat, Nia would already be behind them. It was like trying to fight shadows that could think and plan. The most disturbing part was that both girls looked like they were having the time of their lives. Nia giggled every time she managed to sneak up on someone. Keisha grinned when she successfully disarmed an attacker without him even noticing until his weapon was gone. Within 10 minutes, all 6 intruders were unconscious on the floor. They had been defeated by what appeared to be 2 children playing hide and seek. Not one of them had managed to fire a single shot or hurt anyone. When station security finally arrived, they found Master Vaktan standing in the middle of the mess hall, staring at the Williams sisters with a mixture of awe and terror. The girls were sitting cross-legged on the floor, sharing a snack they had somehow found during the chaos. "That was fun," Nia announced cheerfully. "Can we play again tomorrow?" The security chief looked around at the unconscious attackers, then at the 2 small humans, then back at the attackers. "What happened here?" Vaktan shook his massive head slowly. "I just watched 2 children defeat 6 trained military operatives using techniques I do not have names for. They treated a life-or-death combat situation like it was recess at school." Later, as the station returned to normal and the attack was officially declared over, Vaktan sat in his office trying to write his report. How could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he make anyone understand that humans did not just train warriors through formal instruction? They created warriors by letting their children play games on worlds where only the strong, fast, and clever survived. Every day of childhood was combat training disguised as fun. Every game was a lesson in tactics, stealth, and survival. The most terrifying realization was that Keisha and Nia had no idea how deadly they were. To them, fighting off armed attackers was just another game, like the ones they played back home when storms threatened their colony. Humans, he realized, were not just dangerous because they were tough or stubborn. They were dangerous because they turned survival itself into play, creating warriors who faced death with smiles on their faces and laughter in their hearts. And there were billions of them scattered across the galaxy, all playing the same games, all learning the same lessons without even knowing it. The Great Hall of the Galactic Combat Academy had never been so quiet. 3 weeks had passed since the attack, and word had spread throughout the galaxy about what had happened on Kepler Station. Not the official version about brave cadets and heroic instructors, but the whispered truth that made even veteran warriors shake their heads in disbelief. Master Vaktan stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled crowd. Representatives from dozens of worlds filled the seats, all waiting to hear his report. Military commanders, academy instructors, and government officials had traveled across the galaxy to understand how 2 human children had changed everything they thought they knew about combat. Behind him, a massive screen displayed footage from the attack. The images showed Keisha and Nia Williams moving through chaos like it was a dance they had practiced their entire lives. Every time the video played, the room grew more quiet. Vaktan cleared his throat, the sound echoing through the hall like distant thunder. "Honored guests, fellow instructors, members of the Galactic Defense Council, I stand before you today to discuss a discovery that will change how we think about warfare, training, and the very nature of survival itself." He paused, looking around at faces from 100 different species. Some looked curious, others skeptical. Most just looked confused. For thousands of years, we have trained warriors the same way. Rigid discipline. Ancient forms passed down through generations. Years of repetitive practice, until movements become automatic. We believe this was the only path to creating truly effective fighters. The screen behind him shifted to show traditional training methods. Crothry students practicing the same sword forms their ancestors had used for millennia. Theron cadets running through obstacle courses that had not changed in centuries. Vexani assassins memorizing techniques that were old when the galaxy was young. "We were wrong," Vaktan said simply. A murmur went through the crowd. Several representatives leaned forward in their seats. Humans do not train warriors through discipline and repetition. They create them through something far more powerful and far more dangerous. They turn survival itself into play. He gestured to where Keisha stood with the Academy's senior instructors. At 18, she looked impossibly young compared to the battle-scarred veterans around her, but everyone in the room had seen the footage. They knew what she was capable of. 3 months ago, Keisha Williams arrived at this academy as our youngest student ever. She had never attended a military school, never studied formal combat techniques, never even been in a real fight. Yet within minutes of her first sparring session, she had defeated opponents who had trained since childhood. The screen showed clips from her early matches. Each victory looked impossible, like she was breaking the laws of physics or reading her opponent's minds. When I asked who had taught her to fight, she told me it was her 6-year-old sister. I thought she was lying or making a joke. I was wrong about that, too. New footage began playing. Security recordings from Titan's Edge showing 2 children playing in what looked like a junkyard. But as Vaktan began pointing out details, the audience realized they were watching advanced military training disguised as childhood games. Every race through that scrapyard was pursuit and evasion training. Every hiding game taught stealth and ambush tactics. Every moment of play was preparation for battles these children did not even know they might face someday. An elderly Theron general raised his hand. "Master Vaktan, are you suggesting that human children are naturally superior fighters?" "No, General Kexvar. I am suggesting something far more significant. Human children who grow up on frontier worlds develop combat skills as a natural part of survival. They do not train to become warriors. They play games that happen to teach them everything a warrior needs to know." The room erupted in shocked whispers. Representatives began talking to each other in dozens of different languages, all trying to process what they had just heard. Vaktan waited for quiet before continuing. "During the recent attack on this station, I watched Keisha Williams and her sister treat a life-or-death combat situation like it was recess at school. They defeated 6 professional military operatives using techniques that do not exist in any manual, tactics that violate every principle we teach, and they did it while laughing." The footage from the attack began playing again. Even knowing what was coming, the audience watched in stunned silence as 2 children made trained killers look like bumbling amateurs. Starting next month, the Academy will begin implementing new training protocols based on human play fighting methods. Cadet Williams will lead this program as our youngest instructor in history. Jerome Washington, the other human student, raised his hand from the audience. "Sir, with respect, how do you teach someone to play? These games, they are not really games. They are survival skills that humans learn because they have to." Vaktan nodded approvingly. "An excellent question, Cadet Washington. We cannot recreate the frontier conditions that forge these skills naturally, but we can study the principles behind them. We can learn why play-based training produces fighters who think differently, move differently, and react differently than traditionally trained warriors." The assembly continued for 2 more hours. Experts asked questions about human psychology, childhood development, and the specific conditions on frontier worlds that created these unusual fighters. By the end, most attendees agreed that further research was necessary. As the crowd began to disperse, Vaktan found himself walking with Keisha toward the docking bay. Her sister's visit was ending, and Neo would be returned to Titan's Edge on the evening transport. "Your sister seems excited about going home," he commented, watching the small girl skip ahead of them while chattering to anyone who would listen. Keisha smiled. "She is always excited. But yeah, she has been telling me about all the new games she wants to teach the other kids back home. Something about space pirates and asteroid racing." Vaktan's mandibles clicked nervously. He had learned enough about human children to know that their games often involve skills that would terrify military professionals. What exactly is asteroid racing? "Oh, It is where you have to run through a field of swinging obstacles while someone tries to tag you with foam balls. Nia says it helps teach you how to move in 3 dimensions while under fire. Keisha spoke like she was describing the most normal thing in the world. The massive alien instructor felt a chill run through his body. And the other children on your world play these games? Sure, there are about 20 kids in our age group. Nia is the youngest, but she is probably the best at most of the games. She has been teaching them stuff she learned here at the academy, too. They reached the docking bay just as Nia came bouncing over to say goodbye, her small arms wrapped around Keisha's waist in a fierce hug. I am going to miss you so much, she said. But wait until you see what I teach everyone back home. We're going to have the best games ever. As she skipped up the ramp to her transport shuttle, Nia called back over her shoulder, "Oh, and Keisha, do not forget to teach them the tornado game. That one is really, really fun." The shuttle doors closed before Keisha could ask what the tornado game was. She turned to find Master Voktan staring at the departing ship with an expression of pure terror. "Sir, are you okay?" Voktan shook his massive head slowly. "I have just realized something truly frightening. Cadet Williams, your sister is returning home to teach 20 other human children new combat techniques that she learned from watching our most advanced students. In 5 years, when those children come of age, they will make you look like a beginner." As the transport disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying its precious cargo of a 6-year-old girl who thought warfare was the best game ever invented, Voktan made a mental note to recommend Titan's Edge as the highest priority recruitment world in the galaxy. After all, if humans could accidentally create the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy just by letting their children play, he definitely wanted them on his side rather than against him. The future of galactic warfare had just skipped away in pigtails and a yellow dress, humming a children's song that was probably a coded tactical manual. Retry.